Alright guys, going to talk about rent to buy today again. I'm getting a few inquiries about it, and I'm thinking on the Toloveco services I may be opening a section for this. The hardest bit is actually getting people to see that a property they're struggling to get rid of, this is a viable option. And the funny thing is, although they're struggling to get rid of the property, there's often other opportunities there they simply don't use. I mean, here in La Mata, you'll see a lot of the Spaniards own properties, but they don't rent them out, but they've got them up for sale. In all honesty, if you took one of these properties here opposite and rented it out, they would have got back, well, in the last 5 years, if you said even on a bad estimate, they would have got back at least 15,000 euros in rent. Realistically though, it would have been much higher than that in the holiday season. They would have probably got up to about 30,000 back, which is about 30% of what the property is worth. So the point being is, a lot of the time they leave them empty. I know there's some favourable agreements relating to tenants in Spain, in the sense that squatters' rights are quite severe. But at the same time, if you're using things like Airbnb, a lot of that stuff just simply won't happen. You're probably at more risk with a property sat empty. But anyway, back to rent to buy. The first thing I want to say there is, if you're a buyer, there's rental potential. There's no getting away from it. It's realistic. The demand's there. I mean, in La Mata, it gets crazy in holiday time. You may get 3 months of the year where they're fully booked. And then through the winter, if you get it to a reasonable rate, you'll find you'll get bookings through the winter as well. But those 3 months will actually more than pay your mortgage. And then the rest of the year is all pure profit. But anyway, focus on rent to buy. I'm just saying that there's a viability option there as well. Rent to buy is basically a contractual agreement where a property is rented for a specific time with the option to purchase a property for a pre-agreed price during that term. So basically, before the end of the term, you've agreed that you will have bought the property. That's basically rent to buy. So what you have, the initial payment and all the rent money is paid during the rental period are removed from the pre-agreed sales price at the time of purchase with the notary. So what you have is, instead of paying rent and it's just gone, it's deducted. It's taken from the total amount that you have to pay for the property. So if you actually had, say, a 12-month period, you're paying 400 a month. You add that up for the 12 months, and then that's deducted off the top of the property value because you paid it off the property. Now, there's certain things set up on this, so it works for both parties. The first one is you agree an upfront initial payment, and this is normally between 3 and 10% of the property value. So you'll be putting down a bigger deposit, but obviously you're not looking to rent the place, you're looking to purchase it anyway. So that's to show that you're committed to buying the property as much as it is committed from the other side, they're selling it. You agree a monthly rental amount, all of which, as I said, gets deducted from the property purchase price. Now, there's different ways of working the rent to buy, in the sense of, you may put that big deposit down, then have a high rent every month to actually pay off the whole amount before the end of the period, or you may be paying a chunk off so that you've actually got to a point where you can actually get a mortgage. So you may have paid, like, say 30-40% off, then got a mortgage for the last 60%. So obviously your mortgage is actually cheaper as well. But bear that in mind. You're not going to end up paying the interest on 80% or whatever. You're only going to be paying on the last 60, because obviously one of the advantages of doing it this way is it's pretty much always interest free. So if the property is valued at 100k at the beginning, it's only 100k to pay. It's only when you start going, okay, well, I paid half of it, but I'll get a mortgage for the other half. Well, that 50% is going to have the interest on the mortgage that you've got. So this is one of the advantages of it, is you've got some savings in there. Also, if the purchase hasn't occurred, as far as I'm aware, because you're initially renting to buy and not actually made the purchase, the taxes would be due at the end and not the beginning, which also makes it much easier to buy a property, because if you're having to pay 10,000 up front, that, you know, it could be 10% of a property value. It's a lot of money. Anyway, so what you try to do is basically get to the end point where everything's paid, or you've got a mortgage available, or something else that allows you to make that final purchase. So you also agree the sales and purchase price at the beginning, not the end, because obviously you've agreed to take the property on. You're not expecting to find that it's gone up 40% by the time you get to the end of the process. So everything's agreed at the beginning, and make sure it's agreed. That's an important thing. Make sure it's agreed, not, well, we'll revalue at the end because it might have gone up 20%, so you can give us another 20%. No, because you've actually been paying it off. It's a bit like a car. You buy this year's car. If it's on finance and stuff, they don't expect you to pay for the newer model. It's another 8,000 euros, pounds more. You're paying off the car that you purchased. So anyway, so then the next thing is you agree the term of payments. Now these are normally 12 months to 36 months. Now I'm sure there'll be some flexibility on some of that as well. Although, like I said, it's normally 12 to 36 months. There may be some other things you could put in there. The advantage you've got with this is it's negotiable with the owners. I know some of them want them paid off within this set period, but there may other people may actually be in a location that's difficult to sell, so they may be more flexible and could add another year on for the payments or whatever. Work that out between you. You know, be realistic. At the same time, there's nothing wrong with trying to work a deal in there. So you sign the contract at the agreed amounts. That's all done at the beginning. Remember, this is an official notarized setup that you're going to take the ownership over a period of time. A bit like buying a car and getting the finance on the car without huge interest. You're agreeing that by the end, all this has been paid. Doesn't matter if you have to get a mortgage or whatever. The agreement is within that fixed period, you have paid it off. It doesn't matter if it's a mortgage. Doesn't matter if you get a car loan and pay the rest off with a car loan amount. Doesn't matter. The main thing is you're actually getting to the end and own them nothing. The owner can walk away with the amount they wanted for the property, and at the same time knowing that over this period they're going to receive all that and walk away with no headaches. And then you just move into the property, and then the only obligation is like I said, is to make sure it's paid within the agreed terms of the contract, rent being removed from the pre-agreement, purchase price over that time. There is downsides in the fact that you couldn't get a mortgage at the end, or there's other issues that could come up, ill health or whatever. You've got to take that on board, because these can affect how the contract runs. So if you're getting into this, be aware there is some downsides to it. I'm going to say do your own due diligence and research on it. I just wanted to outline what this is for rent to buy, so you've basically got an understanding of this allows you to get into a property often with no cash down, because a lot of them will actually do no cash down and actually just have a higher rent. So for example, say this apartment, the rent would be say $400-500 a month normally. You'd be paying $1,000 a month, because the whole point is you're trying to pay it off within a fixed period. So giving you the usual rent price wouldn't make any sense. You need to have a level of commitment that you're going to purchase the property. So from that point of view, there's benefits on this. Key benefits is no interest. The fact is you can often move in without paying the taxes up front. You can move in and pay it off at a pace that may suit you. For example, if you're a contractual worker, in the sense that sometimes you've got work and then other times you don't, you may find that in the good months you pay it off rapidly, and you agree a minimum amount of payments for the other months that you may not be so busy. So for example, you may want to pay it off at $1,500 a month, and then get to a point where say, oh, the winter is quiet, I want to pay $500 a month. Well, you come to an agreement and say, this is the minimum I'll pay each month, but this is how my business works. I make most of my money at this time of year, and at the quiet months, I want to pay at a lower rate because I'm not generating the cash. The point being is you can work this because you're working with somebody. Now, the reason rent to buy is becoming more and more popular is the taxes are unpopular in Spain. I mean, the amount that they want for you moving into a property is too much in my mind, considering they do nothing for it. But the other side of this being that there's getting the mortgage isn't as easy as it used to be. So a lot of people struggle to do that. There's a lot of people that don't want to do a lot of cash down in the beginning, because obviously, I mean, it's a bit like the UK, where the deposits are getting a bit out of control for what they want on the properties, because when that housing market does collapse, it's going to be very painful in the UK. Here in Spain, I would say gauge the properties yourself. The way I look at La Mata, Guadamar, and Torrevieja has a very, very good tourist market, and it's not difficult to fill these places in the summer months. I know because people contact me all the time. I also get a lot of people wanting from September through the winter for somewhere to stay here rather than the UK and Scandinavia and other places which are colder. So there's a winter market as well as a summer market. You also have a fairly buoyant long-term rental. I mean, most of the people I know here have been here years. You know, they'll move into a property, and if they're happy with it, they'll stay there. This is one of the things I like about La Mata, because it's a bit like a village. So the point being is, this is an area I like to focus on. Guadamar is very good, and Torrevieja is Torrevieja. There's some good and bad areas in Torrevieja. But personally, I like this area. Guadamar's nice. A lot of it, Torrevieja's nice. There is people that will stay there long term, even on a rental point of view. Now, whether you can do a rent to buy, I think you'll need to discuss that with the person you're buying it from. Personally, I think that's the quickest way of paying it off. Say for example, I took a property on here, and I've got say I've got spare €500 a month, and I can rent it out here for €500 a month, but I don't need to live in it. So I could pay that off at €1,000 a month, because a tenant in there is paying the other half. Now, for somebody selling a property, that's pretty much €1,000 a month for that period, which means you can pay it off quite quickly. At the same time, if you put a lump deposit down, not a problem, and when you get to the end, the equity you have in the property is high as well, so you're more likely to get a mortgage, because you're not looking at going to get a mortgage and only having 20%. You probably own about 60-70% of the property already, and as far as they'd be concerned, it's like getting a new kitchen. They've got nothing to lose, because the property is there. There's enough equity in the property that is to the bank's benefit. So the point being is, there's another option in there. But like I said, a lot of this is open to discussion with the owners, because sometimes these people who've sat in the properties a very long time, they have other issues that are more important. For example, say somebody's very ill, they may be just looking for an exit and getting something back from their property. And if they can get something back on a regular basis, it's all contractual, it's all agreed, and it will eventually lead them to being able to exit, then why not? Work it to suit all parties. And that's one of the things I do like about rent to buys, is you do have that engagement and flexibility, which is very, very important. Because there will be months where you may struggle, and there may be months where you've got excess, because sometimes that happens, and there may be other opportunities there. For example, pensioners that may have a lump sum from retirement. So say you got 30-40 grand out the UK, and you want to buy a property here, you've got a load of cash down, and you may only want to put in 15 grand and then pay the rest over a period of time to make sure it's right for you. The point being is, there's some flexibility in it. And I do think the rent to buy market will actually increase in Spain. Anyway, thanks for watching.